Oh, in Scotland, it's actually called confirmation. It's not called probate, which I think is a much nicer word.
Yeah, it is.
It's not like probate. If they've got money in all different pockets, then there's a lot more work for somebody to do.
Skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hi everyone, welcome back to our channel. I'm Leah.
I'm AK.
And we are Property Couple. As you may or may not know, we have experienced a really slow process with the purchase of our first house due to probate. So we wanted to make a video explaining everything we've learned about probate, because we thought it may help someone else who ends up going through this as well.
It's a new word to me.
Yeah, I know.
A new word to you?
Yeah, I mean, when the vendor said, I'm afraid that my auntie has died and it will be going through probate, I was like, oh, okay. And she was like, it's gonna take 3 or 4 weeks. And I was like, okay. So I didn't quite know what it was, but I knew I should probably read into it.
3 to 4 weeks seems a bit ambitious as well.
Yeah, I know, I bet that's what her solicitor said. Like, yeah, we'll do it in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Here we are about 6 months later, still no property, no probate obtained.
I've had about 7 birthdays since.
Alright, so what is probate?
What is probate? Well, I'm going to give you a definition online and then we can just discuss it.
Yeah.
So the definition online is when someone dies, there is a legal process that may need to be undertaken to wind up their affairs, pay off any outstanding debts they had, and distribute their money and possessions to those entitled to inherit them.
So basically what it means is sorting someone's shit out.
Yeah.
That's basically
Sorting
what it means.
You know when someone says, sort your shit out, mate?
Yeah.
It must be where it comes from.
And when someone dies, they will have a lot of shit that needs sorting out.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. When we went to view that property and they were upstairs shredding stuff, going through documents, there's clearly a lot of admin involved. So with probate, there's 2 ways you can go about it. The first way is that someone in your family, also known as a
executor,
can be the person to dish out all this stuff and do all the admin. That usually costs a couple of £100. Or you can pay a solicitor and it could cost thousands to sort out probate, depending on how complex one's estate is or how big it is.
The reason they have 2, like you said, is because if something is really complex and the what should we call them?
The beneficiaries?
No, the deceased.
Oh, the dead person, the deceased.
What do we call them?
We call them it's the opposite of the deceased.
Yeah,
the deceased.
So I guess the reason there's 2 is because if the deceased has a really complex set of affairs, then a solicitor's, I think, is a much better place to start because they can break everything down and that's more their speciality, isn't it?
Yeah, they're just dealing with more stuff, more admin, and it can get really complex. If someone's got property overseas, if they've got money in all different pockets, then there's a lot more work for somebody to do.
Skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've mentioned that the executor or the solicitor needs to assess all the assets, get everything together. And I'm just going to read a few points on this list here. So they might need to locate and value the estate assets, identify any outstanding debts, which the government are going to be very pleased to know, calculate the estate value, identify and contact all the beneficiaries of the estate, apply to the probate registry for the grant of probate, close down any bank accounts, settle any outstanding debts, prepare the estate accounts, and then distribute the remaining estate to beneficiaries in line with the terms of the will.
So what does that mean?
What does that even mean? It's basically what that means is it's just getting everything together, everything in order, making sure that the debts are taken care of, and we understand the lay of the land.
The lay of the land.
The lay of the land.
And if any of those words were confusing, for instance, somebody's estate is just all the stuff they own. So I feel like they used to use that word in like Jane Austen novels.
Yeah.
They'd be like, Mr. Darcy's estate.
I just thought of it as like someone's house.
Yeah, but there could be more in their estate. Their house, that bit of land,
Yeah.
estate overseas. So that's a word that, you know, might be confusing. What else?
What would our estate be? It would be like a bike and
our estate.
a MacBook or something. Like.
This isn't my estate.
Yeah.
Your bike is like the
So-
most expensive thing in our flat. So the executor needs to sort out all of this, gather all of these documents, send it off. All of these things need to have a value on them because otherwise it's impossible to put a number next to what the total of this estate is.
This process can take a really long time, and there's a few things that actually really can slow this process down. You talked about obtaining the grant of probate.
Yeah, so obtaining the grant of probate is basically a piece of paper that allows somebody to legally sell property, close bank accounts, act on the dead person's behalf, the dead person. And that was about halfway through the list of things that you went through about what's involved in probate. So they could get stuck like before they're even, you know what I mean? Like they're halfway through that list and they're like, oh, I need this piece of paper to do all of this other stuff. So that can slow it down loads. And
that's actually where we got stuck.
Yeah.
However, the second step is paying the inheritance tax.
So once the estate has all been valued, assets have been sold, then the solicitor or the executor, if it's a family member or friend, will have to pay any inheritance tax that is due to HMRC. When someone's estate is worth over a certain amount of money, there is a quite hefty inheritance tax, which we'll probably do a whole other video on because that's another conversation. But this money will need to be paid before it can be divvied out to the beneficiaries. So it's only fair. You've got to operate within the law.
Another thing that can potentially slow probate down is problems with the will. Yeah, so a poorly drafted will can cause significant delays in probate.
So a poorly drafted will can cause a lot of problems to probate, because if something's not done legally, properly, then the government will probably have a problem with it and find a way to get some more money out of you. If someone's written like on a piece of paper and signed it, like, I will give you my house, here's my signature, that doesn't count in the eyes of the law. So that's why you see all these adverts on TV where people are like, we can help you sort out your will. Don't forget to sort out your will. You need to do that.
Homemade or DIY will, basically.
Yeah, if someone's had a conversation with you, that doesn't count either. It needs to be all in paper, done properly.
Another thing that can slow probate down is actually selling the property.
Anyone who's sold a property probably knows how unpredictable it can be, how lengthy it can be. If there's a chain and one person in the chain drops out, it breaks the whole thing. So
it's likely there won't be an onward chain.
Yeah, it's likely in a probate sale, because the owners are just inheriting the money, that there won't be a chain. But what's not certain is that whether anyone will want that house. You just never know, really. It might not be in a desirable area and so on. It could take ages to sell.
Another thing that can slow it down, and it might be unlikely, is the death of an executor. So the person who is responsible for administering the estate passes away, then there has to be another executor appointed.
So for example, if I was someone's executor and then I passed away, I need to have appointed someone else to sort out the shit I was meant to go sort out. So that can be something that slows it all down.
Another thing that can slow down probate is a missing beneficiary. So imagine there's some long lost cousin, aunties, dogs, wives, child's
that's due some money.
Step aunties.
Yeah. We get it. We get it.
Yeah. You get it, right?
They might be hard to find.
Yeah, they might be hard to find. I mean, it sounds like that person there who I was describing is probably pretty tricky to locate.
Yeah. And it makes sense, because you know all those emails that you sometimes get, like in your spam box, where it's like, you're due £2 million. I don't know if you know, but someone's left a lot to you in their estate, so in their will. So contact us to find out how to get your money.
They're fraud, though.
Total fraud. Like, that's not true. I mean, it could be true.
Got nothing to do with missing beneficiaries.
You might actually be contacted by a solicitor legitimately one day because you're a beneficiary in a will to family members you no longer talk to. That could happen. But if you see it in your spam box from a country you don't have any association with, I mean, gotta ask the questions, haven't you?
Yeah, and then I think the final thing that can delay probate a lot is third-party delays.
Such as?
So if there is potentially foreign assets as part of the estate, or more complex estates, like you said, I think you mentioned before, like
foreign property
or foreign assets that belong within the estate, can become quite complex as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Slows things down.
Selling property overseas, like, that's a whole other ball game, and if you've got to wait for that to be sold before you can inherit the probate money, then you're going to be waiting around a long time. Also, as we mentioned earlier with valuing things up, if the person has got a load of like unique items, like proper antiques that could be worth loads.
Yeah, like a very rare pterodactyl egg.
What is that?
From the Jurassic era.
It has to be
only one was ever created because there was only one of these pterodactyls.
Could be worth loads.
Could be worth loads.
So it has to be fairly valued and sold before the probate money can be divvied out between the beneficiaries. So, the other thing, family feud. That could slow it down. Nothing slows down probate.
Not uncommon.
You know, someone dies and then everyone argues. That can slow things down, especially if the said family members don't actually talk. Then all of their discussions will have to be done in front of a probate judge, which means going to court, which means more money, which means more time. So there's just a ton of things that can slow down probate. We experienced this slow process in trying to buy our first investment property. We didn't understand anything to do with probate until doing the research, doing the learning, and And now we do, yeah. And now we actually decided to abandon the sale with the one that's taking so long and just leave all those negative vibes at that door and move on to a different project. But we hope that this video has been helpful to anyone who's trying to understand probate a bit further.
Yeah, I hope it's really sort of answered any questions you might have on probate. If you've got any questions or comments, please
leave it down below.
And we will probably Google it.
Find the answer. I just think there's so many like complex words in here that you're like, what? Who's the estate? The beneficiary? The what? The this? So yeah, I just think it's worth mentioning. Oh, in Scotland, it's not called probate. It's called in Scotland, it's actually called confirmation. It's not called probate, which I think is a much nicer word.
Yeah, it is.
It's not like probate.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at propertycouple UK.
And subscribe to our channel because we make videos every single week. And we'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.